The Center for Audit Quality presents Profession in Focus.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of Profession in Focus. I'm Cindy Fernelli, and I'm pleased to have with us today Bob Moritz, Chairman and Senior Partner of PwC US, and also a CAQ board member.
Happy to be here.
Bob. So it's with a little bit of sadness that we're going to talk about your chairmanship, because that is coming to an end. It actually ended in October. And while I'm pleased that you're going to stay on the board, you are stepping down as chair because your term limited out. But I wanted to ask you, what do you think has been the biggest initiative that the CAQ has undertaken during your tenure?
Look, I'm tremendously proud of what the CAQ has done while I was on the board as not being the chair, as well as at the time of the chair. And we've accomplished a lot. The two things that stick out to me is the relationships that the profession have with the various stakeholders. This profession is really important in terms of its connectivity to the investing community, to boards, to management team members, to regulators, to academics and the like. And you and the entire team at the CAQ, I think with the help of the governance board, have actually done a great job of improving those relationships and making sure we as a profession are remaining relevant. The second thing I would focus on is what we've done, particularly in the audit quality space, both focusing not only on the improvement and the need for improvement in audit quality, but also talking about how we actually talk more broadly about the importance of audit quality, the measures of audit quality, and how individual stakeholders, like audit committee chairs or investors, should be thinking about audit quality indicators to determine how to engage with their auditors and what in fact they should be looking for as they think about audit relationships going forward. There's a lot of other things we've accomplished, but those are the two that stick out to me, at least over the last 4 years.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you also for your leadership. I want to now look a little bit to the future. And one of the things that we hear about when we talk to every one of those stakeholders that you just mentioned is cybersecurity. So what are your thoughts about what that might look like in the future, particularly as it applies to the public company auditing profession?
So cyber is a huge topical issue for everybody. And I think the one thing we have to lay down for context is the fact that cyber as a risk is a risk not only because it's an absolute risk, but because the preparedness to be ready for that risk and mitigate that risk is not as good as it needs to be compared to perhaps other kind of risk, market credit risk, etc. So there's two elements that you have to think about from the auditing profession's perspective and for the investor and the financial reporting entities that are out there. First is as it relates to the audit. There's a responsibility when in fact there is a breach. You have to actually assess what are the right appropriate controls, what has happened, in fact what kind of public disclosures should be brought forth. And the reason that's really important, not only for the preparer community, is because of this issue of trust. So once you actually have a breach, trust is now broken, and the question is going to be, where are the preparers, where's the governance bodies, and yes, what are the auditors doing about that, and what kind of disclosures and transparency is there to rebuild that trust. There's obviously controls that you would hope organizations have to be in place to prevent that to the extent possible. We as auditors have to think about that from a financial reporting perspective. There's lots of other issues to be dealt with in terms of control over data that may not be financial reporting later, but may be related to consumers or purchasing or contracts or whatever the case may be. So nonetheless, the profession has an obligation to take a look at those kind of issues. I think looking forward though, there's going to be more need to provide assurance around how good organizations' controls are in place to prevent as best they can those kind of issues from happening and a catastrophic event from coming forth. The auditing profession is fantastically positioned to help in that regard. We have a history of building upon and leveraging our trust platform. We have a history of understanding controls, policies, and procedures to mitigate risks. And we have the credibility to come in with the professional standards to actually provide some form of attestation in that regard. So to me, there's a big role to play in a larger context in terms of where the auditors should be and the value that they can bring that I think is pretty unique to the auditing profession.
Well, I want to switch gears a little bit because I've had the pleasure of hearing you talk to groups about talent, particularly women. And so it's refreshing to see a CEO of a large organization, a male CEO, talk to women, talk to women about joining the profession and what their futures might look like, even more broadly than joining the profession. What would you tell a young person, female or male, about the benefits of joining the profession?
This profession is a great foundation for anything that anyone wants to do. the message I give on campus is that you will continue your learning in the professional services firms, regardless if you stay or go. So to me, it's an opportunity to enhance your resume. And we actually had an interesting stat based upon some academic research that we did a number of years ago, that if you actually stay with us 2 years versus 6, the additional 4 years of experience of that having been on your resume, if you were to leave us and go elsewhere, your earnings potential would increase tenfold.
Wow.
And your ability to be promoted would increase at least sixfold, just by those 4 years of additional experiences.
Years.
So the way I think about it is the profession is actually behind just about everything you read in the Wall Street Journal. The profession gives you some unique opportunities in terms of seeing a lot of the business world that perhaps you wouldn't see in normal course. And it's always changing. There's always something new. So to me, it's exciting. It's foundational in terms of enhancing that resume, and it allows for people to have additional options to do anything they want. And that goes to staying in the finance organization, going elsewhere into other businesses within the business community. It could be moving on to be an entrepreneur. It could be going on to be a political person or a regulator or otherwise. It could be an entrepreneur that stays at home and wants to spend some time with family and kids and raise the kids. Either way, the profession is going to help you personally and professionally. And that's the upside of being in this profession at a fairly unique time in history with a lot of change going on. You come here, you're going to see a lot, and you're going to have a big impact going forward.
Thank you, Bob. That's all very exciting, and I look forward to our future. And thanks all of you to joining this edition of Profession in Focus. I'll see you next time.